David, thank you so much for the $5. Dude, really fucking appreciate that. I agree with your logic, but let's consider the quote. There must always be a Lich King. I really want to see the Scourge unleashed. That quote was a lie. The only reason there must always have been a Lich King is because he was supposed to be the harbinger of Zuval. He was supposed to bring Zuval into existence. We now know, undisputed, that whoever spoke there, like whoever told us that there must always be a Lich King, was lying. Because the only reason for a Lich King to exist is to ensure that Zuval can eventually get in. Would you disagree with that, Apocalypse?
No, I think for our sake, there must always be a Lich King that can withstand the jailer. I think that was the point they were trying to make at the time. There must always be a gatekeeper. There must always be someone resisting this force, otherwise it's going to come in. Yeah. And without a Lich King, look what's happening. The jailer's breaking free of the Maw, he's getting the sigils, shit's going down. So in the same way that Metzen kind of offhandedly said, oh, we're killing old, well, in response to someone saying, we're killing old gods, but nothing's really happened. Did you see Cataclysm? I think we are seeing a much larger macro response to a micro event.
I can get behind that, but I still believe that Tyrannus was in fact Zuval. It was Zuval speaking there. Considering, and most people have pointed this out, there's two voices. Whenever Tyrannus speaks, there's a voice under it, which most of us have said sounds like Yogg-Saron. But then if you listen to Anduin speak in the cinematic as Zuval takes over, there's again this sort of under voice that takes over, right? So that would be my guess, is that all of this was a lie. Also, consider what Zuval actually said to Bolvar. You failed. You failed me. You were supposed to be the harbinger of my coming. That's why there must always be a Lich King. The Lich King is meant to be the harbinger. Sylvanas tells Bolvar that he has no idea the power that he meddles with, and he's not worthy of that power. Again, David, with the $5, really fucking appreciate that. What if the creation of the Shadowlands, we know, took souls that were going to the Eternal Light and Void, hence why they are invading the Shadowlands? That would depend, because we do know that the Kyrians consider the Light and the Void to be trifling powers. Now, I know you've had opinions on this before, Alpaca.
Yeah. Stopped me before I even got into the rant there. For those of you that don't know, I think this is just arrogance on the Kyrians' part. I don't think they are actually considered trifling threats. I think they are a very real threat, and it's just the pride and arrogance of the Kyrian to poo-poo the threat of the outside forces.
It could also be that they don't remember, because their memories have been removed, so they don't know what kind of threat the Light and the Void would be. Now, as for why they're invading the Shadowlands, we already know why the Light invaded, and I'm assuming the Void most likely invaded for something similar. However, it wouldn't be exactly the same. Reason being, the Light invaded Revendreth because Revendreth sent a Nathurazim into the Light and the agent was discovered. The Void, however, decides to invade Bastion. Why Bastion? But also Maldraxxus. However, they don't seem to have invaded Revendreth or Ardenweald. They did invade Bastion, and we know that they invaded Maldraxxus because the Maldraxxi actually speak about how difficult it was to kill the Void. Why? What did Maldraxxus and Bastion have to do with the Old Gods? Now there, one could make the argument because they were stealing souls that belongs to the Void. Remember what Yogg-Saron calls himself, the God of Death. You have words.
For the Void Bastion, yeah, I have lots of words on this one. Look at Mop, then the Shah. That's the reason why the Void is in Bastion. Just look at the Vespers, look at the Divine Bell. They're very much the same thing. and they create manifestations of negative emotion, which is what the Shah are, which is Yasharaj, right? And that's why the void presence is there, because of the expulsion of these negativity, like portions of your soul.
Okay.
That they're actually creating and calling out to the void. That's why the void's in Bastion.
Yeah, but how would the void get in? I mean,
Why they're
ultimately, it is a shroud around the Shadowlands. And the void, it's not as if the void can just... It's not as if N'Zoth could just very quickly build himself some legs and fucking walk in. There would have to be a very concerted effort to get pieces of Void Lords into the Shadowlands, because you're not just talking about piercing one veil, which would be the veil between Void and the Great Beyond. You're talking about throwing souls from the Void Realm through the veil, through the Great Beyond, into the Shadowlands Veil, and into Bastion.
Don't need to when they're already there. You've got people creating your minions for you already on the other side of the veil. You don't need to add more.
The problem that I would have with that is the evidence that we have for why these beings were sort of willed into existence was because of the corruption of the Black Heart, right? Because the heart was still there, the heart corrupted the land, and because of the corruption of the land, the beings were sort of created, right? If you had many negative thoughts, those many negative thoughts would actually create a being. That's not necessarily true in Bastion, unless of course you're saying that there is some kind of...
So the Divine Bell is a key point as to how the Shah became what they are. It was down to the Divine Bell that gave form to these discordant forces within inside oneself. And that's a Vesper. That is exactly what they use in Bastion to shed these negative forces out of you. So yeah, they're doing the exact same thing that created Shah on Azeroth in Bastion, and that's their purpose apparently, is to create Shah and kill them. So yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. If you're creating void minions, they're going to call out to the other void minions, thereby piercing the veil, creating that bridge, creating that portal, creating that anchor point.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I see where you're... So you're basically arguing the problem wasn't from without to within, but from within to without.
Exactly.
So the problem originated in Bastion and then moved outwards. Okay, I see where you're going.